Good afternoon, and happy Monday, everyone. Welcome to Money Mondays, where we're inspiring you and encouraging you and giving you information to help you grow in your business, in your ministry, in your venture, whatever entrepreneurship the Lord has given you on today. So get ready for additional information. We're going to talk about how you can negotiate good deals with your vendors, some things that you need to consider as you operate and you get ready to expand. So get ready for today's session as we talk about vendor contracts and ways to negotiate good features, good partnerships that can be lasting. And so get ready. Go ahead and share the broadcast with others as we prepare to go forward. Right now, we're going to share with you on our Juice Radio and Talk Show. Welcome to Monday Monday.
Welcome to the Juice Radio Talk Show. 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 Reality TV's church reviews. Let's talk happy love and marriage lifestyle. Come and talk with us. Come and share with us. Come and laugh with us. Come on and pray with us.
Regina Cole is a special guest. You should be following your lead. Bless. Subscribe on YouTube. Listen on podcasts. We live on IG and Facebook. This episode is sponsored by Truth and Triumph Ministries.
Good afternoon again, everyone, and welcome to Money Mondays, where we're on the Juice Radio and Talk Show. We are talking about today, how do we effectively negotiate deals with our vendors, and how do we effectively operate in different capacities with those who may be in alignment, in a position to help us to grow, to help us advance, to help us even expand into new areas, into new bases that we want to provide our service or our product. And so today, we're just going to share a few things. Of course, it won't be exhaustive, but some things that you can think about as you look to negotiate cost-saving deals. How can we look at ways that we can save costs even as we extend the business out? And so one of those things is to create a partnership or create an opportunity with a vendor partner. Why would you say that that would be beneficial? Because sometimes we feel like we save a lot by doing everything ourselves. But in actuality, when you evaluate your business, when you talk about it, you really assess where I am and where I want to go, there's some capabilities that perhaps others can do better. There's some capabilities that others can do faster. There are some capabilities that will allow others to engage with you and allow you to then give focus and attention to other aspects of growing your business. And so it's so very, very, very important that you don't eliminate the big capability, the big support that could come about by having a vendor involved in your business. And so whether that might be you're providing a service, maybe some elements of your service, you can have another person to be able to do. Maybe you have a product and you've been delivering it as well. Maybe there's an opportunity to involve a delivery vendor whereby you're creating more opportunity to balance out your supply, right? More supply energy is given so that you can create more, and then someone else is doing the distribution for you. So again, there's a lot of things that you can think about. How would I involve a vendor? Sometimes you might have it where you are actually cleaning up your business. Maybe there's an opportunity to have a vendor to come in and do that at a cost-effective manner. That saves you time and strength and energy to appropriate that time. Now, listen, we're not saying involve a vendor or involve another partner and then you do nothing. No, what we're saying is involving a vendor or another service provider into your business, into your venture, into your ministry can help you with allowing the allocation of that particular service to be now given to someone else in capable hands, right? In capable hands. And then now you, as the business owner, can now go about doing something different, operating in another lane so that you can push that forward, that particular business. How can I now operate from a degree that I'm not longer the hands and the feet of everything, right? I'm not the hands and the feet. And I've had to do that too. Oh my goodness. I've had to do that as a manager and managing areas in my corporate management space. What is it that necessitates that I do it? What are the areas that I need to be the person that has my hands on the keyboard, have my hands to the plow, have my hands doing the work, because it is such a priority and such an area of specificity that it needs me. And then where is it in my business, in my ministry, in my venture that I can use the allocation, strength, knowledge, and experience of others to help advance it. And then I operate from an area of oversight. I operate from an area of managing. And so that's what we're talking about today. How can you, as a venture, being a business owner, being an entrepreneur, being a venture capitalist, a person who wants to invest in something, how can you now sit yourself in a perspective where you are now the overseer and others are helping you? So some of those things that you want to talk about is one, can I afford it, right? Can I afford a vendor to come in and support us, right? And so again, we talked about it. You look at it from your financial aspect, and then you also weigh in on it from your strategy and where you're going. And then in some cases, you can't afford not to. Maybe your business is growing at such a demand, you need extra allocation. You need extra hands. You need the expertise of others. You're growing in other spaces and you can't do it all. You must look at the opportunity that vendor relationships do create, what they do provide for you from that perspective. And so once you look at it from a financial perspective, where is it that I can attribute a vendor partner in that can help me strengthen my business? And that's what you're looking for. You're looking for another partner that can strengthen you, that can undergird, that can support your mission and vision. Again, you are the person that is carrying the torch, but you can also light other torches to come along to run with you. You can also light other torches to be a part of the experience, to be a support. And so in that, you first thing you want to do is, what do I need a vendor to do? And that's part of your assessment. What do I need? Do I need someone to come in and help me when it comes to marketing? Maybe marketing is just not what I do. It's not my lane that I ride in well. It's not just something I have the creativity or the innovation. I tell people that all the time. A lot of times I may not know how to pull it all together, but I know what I'm looking for it to look like. I know what I want to see. I want to know what my brand, my representation. I know the presentation I like to see at the end. And so sometimes we may not know how to put all the pieces together. And so that's where you look for a vendor or a service provider who can help you bring those aspects of your vision to life. That's what they do. They're operating on behalf of your vision, your brand, what you have been called to do. And so they are helping you bring it into manifestation. They're helping you bring it to life. And so then you want to look for, hey, little lady, glad to have you with us. And the others that have joined us as well, glad to have you with us today on Mondays. And so what you want to do, one, is look for vendors who are credible. So after you've done your assessment, after you've looked at it and understood what you want to do. Hi, Stephanie Collins, glad to have you. Hey, Pastor Evans, God bless you, Pastor Lorenzo. And so we're just glad to have everyone with us today on the Mondays. And so again, you want to assess, where could I use additional support? Where can I use the allocation of others? How can I gain by aligning with the vendor? How can I gain? And so after you've done that assessment, now you know what you need, because it's hard. It's just like going to the grocery store and you don't have a list. When you go to the grocery store without a list, you end up buying everything because you are willfully spending. You're willfully buying. The same as when you go to procure a vendor or you go to look at certain. If you're going to buy a car and you don't have specificity, you will leave there based on something you saw, not what you need. And so that's why it's so important when you are looking at and evaluating for a vendor, go for what I need, not always for what I desire or want at that point in time. What do I need that's going to help me get to the next level? Because that will help me drive out my plan, drive out my strategy, help me to stay focused, help me stay according to the alignment of my finances and what I've already determined I'm able to do. Helps you keep from overspending. Because sometimes you can get in there and everything sounds great when you're in the conversation. And then when you get to the bottom line, they've already hooked you in. The bottom line can sometimes be more than you expected, more than even you can afford. But some kind of way, we talk ourselves into thinking that, yes, I'm going to do this. But no, you weren't on plan. And that's the difference between understanding and discerning what I need, what's good and what's God, what is necessary and what is a nice to have. What is necessary? And so that's what you want to do when you're operating with a vendor. So one, look for vendors who are credible. The last thing you want to do is be the beta for somebody trying to do something new. If you already have an established business and you already have an established work and you already have a brand and an image and people have a certain level of expectation when they operate with you, the last thing you want to do is align to somebody who has no experience. This is their first time trying to do it, unless the Lord leads you differently. You want somebody who's credible, somebody who's operated in the business enough to be able to give you insight. Again, you're not just paying for what they do, you're paying for their wisdom and knowledge in what they do. And so they can tell you about market trends. They can tell you about what's happening in the space. They can inform you about some things that maybe it's your blind spot. That's why you're going to a vendor. And so that's why you want to get a vendor who has some credibility, who has some experience, who has a brand, who has some remarks about them, who has received some feedback, and who has already a client base that you can refer to if you need credibility. So again, it's very important to disclose to the vendor a list of the companies that they're involved in and ones that you're involved in, so they know what they're having to work with, right? When you are going to negotiate, you want to talk about what are their best practices. What are your best practices? Again, insight into the organization, because this is going to help you when you're going to align with a vendor or a supplier contract. You want to know, what are your best practices? What is your SLA in response? The last thing you want to do is align to somebody who's operating on your behalf and they don't have an SLA to respond back to you. I've seen this happen, to engage with other organizations and to engage with others who perhaps maybe their SLA is, I get back with you when I'm available. That is not sufficient for you in your operation. That is not sufficient for you in your business. That's not sufficient enough for you and your ministry to be able to operate to a degree of excellence, and you are aligning to someone whose bar is much lower than yours. So part of your negotiating is to understand, where is your bar? Because my bar is here. And I need for your bar to be here too, so we have a good understanding. And even if they're operating at a different SLA with another company, you have your standards. You have your agreement. You have things that you have set with your client base, with your customers, and you have to meet them. And so if they're going to join and align to you and support your business, they have to come to your bar. And so you have to be able to know, what are your SLAs? What are your commitments? What is your level of quality? That is a good conversation when you are managing and getting involved with a vendor. What is your level of quality? What if you send me something, I say, this is not right? How long before you will resolve it? How long before you will remediate it and send me something back? Because sometimes you have to make sure that that is in your contract so that you understand, when will they resolve an issue? And sometimes, depending on your nature of your business, I have some business, some nature of the incident or the problem might have different degrees of levels. Even in the marketplace, we have a priority. We have a priority 1, we have a priority 2, and we have a priority 3. Some things are less of a issue, less impactful to the business, and therefore maybe you can respond to me in 72 hours, maybe in 3 days you can get back to me. Maybe you can respond back in that type of time frame and I'm still good. And so maybe even in your contract, you want to classify, what do you consider it to be priority or urgent? What is an urgent? So if I give you a 911, yes, and that's something you have to have in your contract. If I give you a 911, I'm looking for you to respond. I'm looking for you to return back to me and let me know your ETA on resolution. And so these are the kind of things that you must have when you are preparing to operate with a vendor, and have these kind of conversations so that it can then be written into your contract. This is how you operate with me. This is what my expectations are. And that way it can eliminate a lot of the gray. I can't tell you how many times I've spoken with business owners or even entrepreneurs who are going into something and they've left so much gray in their relationships. They've left so much gray. It's left up to interpretation. And therefore you end up, in most instances, both people being unsatisfied. Not only the organization or company that is onboarding the vendor, but also the vendor, because they feel like they're always behind. They're always getting negative feedback because they didn't understand your level of commitment, your level of quality, your level of expectation. And so that's why these kind of conversations are very important when you are negotiating with a contractor or negotiating with a vendor, so that there is clear understanding and messaging of expectation. And as long as they understand that, they are required to meet it as part of the contract. But if you leave it gray, if you leave it unsaid, oh my goodness, thank you, Holy Ghost. Sometimes people will even say, well, I don't want to put that in the contract because it might upset the relationship. Business, you're talking business. And so in a relationship with another business, you must speak the language of contracts, not the language of friendship. You're speaking about a contractual, a business contract that is now a legal document. That goes to another level of understanding. That's why it's very important too. If you're looking to become involved in business with people you know, with people you're already in relationships, you need to make sure you set a clear understanding that yes, we are friends. Yes, we are. We have a relationship with each other. Yes, we've known each other for a long time. Yes, our family might be friends, but we are talking about business right now. And there has to be a delineation between your operation in business and when you are talking relationship. Amen. So there's a different connotation. There's a different lexicon. There is a different posture when you are speaking to business versus having a conversation, general conversation in relationship. And it must be truthful. You've got to get to the point where you are good to say when something is not good. It's got to be okay where you are comfortable to correct. Yes, it has to be okay as a business owner when you are getting into relationships with a vendor, and it may be somebody that you already have prior relationship. You have to have enough relationship to understand that we are speaking business. And when we're doing that, I'm talking about where I'm going. I'm talking about your ability to help support me to get there. And so that is very important. The other thing you want to talk about is your due diligence on mitigating risk. How do we mitigate risk? How do we keep things from happening? Be proactive in it, in our contract, in our relationship. How do we grow our business together and we mitigate potential issues, or we have a risk mitigation plan so that if we do hit an event, how do we then facilitate that? And then you want to ask them on their end, what do you do when you have an issue meeting one of my needs? What's your mitigation plan? How do you have a plan B? Because a lot of times we don't think about that. Sometimes even our vendors run up against an opportunity. Even our partners, even our contractors, they have an opportunity. And one of the good questions that you can ask as you vet out your contract, how do you handle this type of risk that could happen? What is a risk? Is a potential possibility of an impact. And they happen depending on your type of business. It is natural. Some things are, it could be a natural disaster. Which, depending on your type of business, may be more impactful to you than it would be to somebody else. Think about it. If you have a business and it operates on supplies of certain type of distinction. Remember, there was a time when there was low on lumber, and you're a builder and you need lumber. That is an impact to you. That means now, most likely, your supply has been diminished, no longer readily available. That also means because there's a higher demand than supply, your price point has increased. And so that is a relative point that could happen in any type of business. So if you're in a type of business where it is a single threaded or heavily dependent on supplies from others, then you have to make sure that you are evaluating that as part of your contract so that you can weigh in what happens when it's not available. What do I do? Or what do you do when you don't have it available to deliver to me? Is there an alternate type product? Is there a method or a way to see trends so that we can see? Again, that's in your contract negotiation and conversations. You want to talk about that because, again, some things are more critical than others. If you are heavily dependent on a specific type of glue, I'm going to make it real simple. If there's a very specific type of glue that you need, what is the plan when it's no longer available? Have you already identified what is an alternate that you can use and still stay in business? How do I still retain my responsibilities and my commitments to others, even while I might be dealing with a risk event, something that has happened? So that's why it's so important that you are evaluating that even with your vendor partners, ones that you are looking to go in contract with, so that you can evaluate ahead of time, so that when it does happen, you already have a plan. And so you can quickly pivot to your strategy and still be aligned. Sometimes people feel like when I hit an opportunity, oh, I'm now in chaos. No. If you already have a risk mitigation plan, if you already have a contingency plan, if you already set up a strategy for something that could happen, you're right on plan. You're right on your strategy. Even though it has occurred, even though the risk event has happened and something has triggered it, you're still in plan because you got a plan to address it. And so that's why that's so important when you are looking at getting these vendor contracts and getting these deals in place. Utilize this type of information. Also, again, we talked about SLAs, knowing when they will deliver, knowing what's your expectation, knowing when you expect them to respond back to you. Sometimes even KPIs, knowing what is your level of expectation on demand. How many can they deliver at a certain amount of time? How long does it take you to get this amount done? Because if you start to grow your business and you're going to align to a company, you need to make sure that company can grow with you. Either that, or you need to make sure you're setting the duration of the contract based on their ability to deliver. Some of this information goes together. And so you need to know these things so that you know how to write your contract, so that you know the duration of how long this contract. Maybe they can only, based on your strategy, based on your growth plan, you plan to double in 2 years. And they're saying, okay, I can help you where you are now, but when you double, it's going to strain me. And so then you need to be able to converse on that. What's our plan when I get to my double? Because double is my plan. I'm not going to box myself in. I'm not going to limit myself in just to have a contract with you. So what is your plan? Do I now need to set you at my 1 year target? Because you've already told me you can handle me when I double, and my plan is to double this year. And so then in your contract, you need to make sure that you're evaluating that so that you don't get stuck in a long-term contract with somebody that can't go all the way. You don't want to get stuck in long-term with somebody who's short-term. All right. And so you really need to think about that, because that is safeguarding your business. That's safeguarding your potential. That's safeguarding and negotiating where you know you want to go, and making sure that these people, these contractors, can go along with you. The next thing is really building a very strong communication. You have to be able to converse. We talked about it. You have to be transparent. You have to be honest. You want to work with people when you know things are not operating as well as they should. How do I now communicate that with you? In some cases, I've seen it before. There is a communication frequency, and it could be written. Maybe you have, you're growing in that space of being able to give constructive feedback. Maybe you're growing in that space because you're operating with people that you know, or people in ministry, and you're trying to walk in certain lanes very carefully. Maybe it needs to be a checkpoint where we're checking in on statuses. And maybe you need to create, here's what I see we should have in our relationship. I'm going to give you a ramp up time. That's what we call it. I'm going to give you a period of time where you're ramping your business up. And so in the contract, I'm going to say in the first 6 weeks, here's where we're going to come back together and reevaluate. Are you meeting our expectations? Are we providing you with what you need to meet it? Are we giving you the requirements? And are we giving you the information? Are we sharing with you what you need in order to deliver? And so we have that frequency of communication, and it should be in writing at some point. Everything shouldn't be verbalized, because a lot of times if you only verbalize it, it's left up to interpretation. When you only verbalize, it's left up completely to interpretation. But when you write it down and you go through it, and then you have conversation as well, and you both sign off on it, and you say, okay, here's our 6-week check-in, and here's what we understood, and now here's the areas of clarity. Write that in your minutes of your conversation. Here's where we were right on task together. We both were on the same page. And then here's some areas where we had to clarify, where we had to make it clear. And then here's now I go for it, and let's meet again in 6 more weeks. And so that kind of cadence of communication keeps things transparent, keeps things open, so that nobody is surprised when things don't go well. Nobody's surprised when you have to come back and say, listen, we talked about this already. I've had to do this on many occasions, individually, as well as with organizations or departments or vendors or contracts. I've had to say, listen, we've discussed this before, and this was my written expectation, and we're still not there. How do we get there, or how do we change things so that I'm comfortable to know that we won't have this conversation the next time we check in. And those are the kind of postures that you need to have as the business owner, because you want to get to your expected end. You are driving the bus. You have control of the wheel. And so you need to make sure everybody on the bus is operating and going the same way. So communication is very key. You need to talk about that. Who's your single point of contact? How do we communicate with each other? How do we do written responses, written statuses, written updates? How do we confirm that our price point is still correct? And so another thing for your contract, that's good. Thank you, Jesus. While we are talking about price point, when you are working on your contract, you need to do your research on pricing. So that even as you go out with their contractor, maybe you did an RFP, maybe you asked for a response for proposal. You have people who are sitting in information to see how they can align with your business, and you're getting the responses back. Well, you don't know whether you have a good response or not unless you've done your research. And so one of the things you have to do is research pricing to know what are people normally paying for this type of service. And so then you still have a negotiating point, because even I know this for a fact, and I've done it on many occasions, even when one may come and say, okay, this is what I charge, because I've done my research, because I know what they're saying is appropriate for what I'm asking. Sometimes I'm okay. I'm like, okay, that's reasonable. That fits right in with what I have analyzed, what I've assessed, and what I already felt and had in my plan. I'm good. But then there's sometimes when they come with a pricing and it's out of the ballpark, and I said, that's not going to work. Here's my expectation. And then they have a opportunity to either negotiate further, right? More negotiating further, or they decide that's not the deal for them. And that can happen. But you don't know that unless you've done your pricing research. So it's very important, because you can get in a contract and you overprice, you're paying too much. And so that is impacting your bottom line. That is impacting what you have available to spend on your organization. That is impactful to you. And then you don't want to pay too low. Sometimes be mindful of that. Sometimes we can be so excited, oh, they didn't charge me that much. Okay, but make sure you're getting what you expect. Because a lot of times, even though they may not have charged you as high as you expected, find out why. You don't have to come out directly and say, why are you not charging me higher? You can come out and say, okay, well, you're charging me this. Now, what exactly am I getting? I want to make sure that I'm getting all the 5 or 6, 7 pieces that I planned on. And then I want to make sure out of those 6, 5, 7 pieces that I'm getting, that they're the quality that I expect. And out of those pieces that I'm getting, not only am I getting them and they're with quality, I want to make sure they come in on time. And then you just draw down. You draw down on the pieces to make sure that even though they may have given you a low pricing, and then you want to know, are we going to adjust at the time of the contract? When the contract is ending, is there an opportunity for us to reevaluate? Are we reevaluating, and therefore the price point may go up? It is a tiered pricing. Right? And sometimes you might want to do that going in. Maybe you can't afford. Maybe they are the best person to do it for you. They are the best organization, the best vendor, but their pricing is too high for where you are right now. Consider negotiating the pricing and do it on a tier level. Say, listen, I can't afford that right now, but if we can start out, because you're going to give me what I feel I need, and that's going to blow my business. I believe I'm going to be able to grow my business. And so can we start here? And maybe in 6 months, I'm going to tier you up another $2 per item, or $2 per the time of the opportunity spent, maybe an hour, whatever it is. And then I'm going to tier you up to getting where you want. But I need the time to grow the business, and I need time for us to grow in our relationship. That's when negotiating starts. To be able to have that awareness that you are sitting in the seat of authority and ownership, because you own it. And so then you can then weigh in. And then another good part from some of the vendors, again, is that observe, what can I learn from you? What can you get, right? You want to treat your vendor not just as a third party, but as a part of the entire experience. If you're getting someone, you're connected the vendor to your business, know from end to end, they are a part of the exchange, and they've now become a part of growing the business. And so I know we're getting to the end of our 12:30 hour, a half hour, and I tell you, it has been awesome and amazing. We're going to continue this on next week. I have a lot more to talk about in vendor contract negotiating with suppliers and those that you want to engage in a new partnership. This is good. I'm encouraging you. If you're in a vendor where you're entrepreneuring and you have a new service or product, or you're in ministry and you're looking at launching out and adding others in to help This is good information that can help you make wise decisions. And that's why it's so important to continue to join us every Monday, as we continue to delve into the information that can help you grow in your business and in your venture. So again, thank you for joining us on Monday on the Juice Radio and Talk Show. We look forward to seeing you again on next Monday. This is Pastor Grant. Peace and blessings to you today.